Folks, how's everybody doing today? My name is Rudy. You're watching a YouTube channel called Alpha Investments. On this channel, we discuss my life and journey in the world of cardboard, while I try to solicit all of you to be a part of the cardboard world and try to convince you all that the world is not ending because the internet's full of negativity, and where I also spew my thoughts and, my thoughts and my theories about the direction of cardboard in the world. So today we have a very little purpose video. I just felt like sitting down in a quiet location and just talking to you guys about what I see going on. That's about it. Don't really have an agenda to push here. I'm not here to remind you all that I've been on YouTube for 10 years. I'm not here to remind you all that you should be a patron so you can send me messages and we can talk about the meaning of life together. And every once in a while you can even buy something from me. I'm not really here to solicit all that today, even though I just did, because that's how Creepy Rudy works. I just want to kind of spew out some of my theories about what I see going on right now. So we're going to start this conversation with Magic the Gathering, Final Fantasy, and the set coming after Final Fantasy, Edge of Eternities, and eventually this new Marvel Spider-Man Universes Beyond. You know, it's difficult to accept that the magic that many of you old farts out there like me, it's difficult for all of us to accept that magic is not going back to pre-2020 design, lower prices, and just a normal old era. We are not going back even to this, even to just conspiracy. Like, just to remind you all, like, this box was like 10 years ago almost. I think 8 years ago or 9 years ago. I sold these boxes to patrons for $79 a box. We're never going back to that. And that's a shitty thing to say, because that's the real world that we're in. When Unstable came out, and I remember selling these, I think I jacked the price up to you guys on this one. I think I did $89 if you wanted a half a case, and like $84 if you wanted a full case, a box. Yeah. The days of like $80, $90 boxes just don't exist anymore. And for some of us that have been around a long time and are old, you know, it's tough to accept that if you want to enjoy the hobby with a healthy relationship, you have to accept that the prices today for new Magic the Gathering are very expensive. That is just the nasty reality of it. Now, if you don't agree with it, I feel you. I mean, a lot of people feel like stores are all about this price increase and distributors are all... Like, I want to remind you all, as the prices get more and more expensive, like, you know, when I started the Rudy Patreon thing in YouTube 10 years ago, like, I was buying the boxes for $77 a box, and I was selling them to patrons who were willing to support and help me grow for $79.99 a box. Yeah, there was no money in PayPal and shipping. I lost a couple dollars a box, but I thought it was worth it to grow the channel and get support and kind of build the Rudy empire to the next level. And to this day, I still do that, even though, well, $79 boxes are gone and we don't have draft boxes anymore, and there's been 5 price increases and 25 post officing. But again, the basic principle still exists. But it is weird to see like a message from someone who's watched this channel for 10 years, or maybe someone who's bought everything I've sold for 10 years. And it's weird to see the results of certain things. It feels weird. That the human memory of, well, I remember that, like, we all become the old guy yelling at clouds, and we all remember the way it was. Like, here, I'll give you guys a good one here. Visions. So when Visions came out, it didn't do very well. Okay? Like, I was young. I didn't have a wholesale distributor. I didn't have stores and businesses and warehouse and offices. I didn't have, you know, LGS. I didn't own businesses or anything back in the 90s. I was young, high school, college. So I didn't have all my business stuff. I didn't own, you know, card stores and offices, and, you know, I didn't have anything back then. But I remember stores would buy these boxes for like $50. And like what were they, $3 a pack? How much was it a pack? $2.95 a pack. They would print on the box $3 a pack, which is about right. If it's $3 a pack, so MSRP for all you manufacturers vested retail penis gang out there, $3 times 36. What is it, about $108, $110 a box? So yeah, wholesale for $50, $60 a box is about right. And it's crazy because I remember this not doing well. And I remember, that was close. I remember stores paying, let's say, $60. And I remember stores trying to sell this for $69 a box. And nobody wanted it. Magic's dead. And we've been through so many eras of evolution and change. And, you know, the only thing that's certain is uncertainty. The only guarantee about our lives in the future is, well, we're all going to die one day, and we are always going to be faced with change. And historically, as a human being, most changes are negative. That's just the blunt reality. If you're called into a meeting at your job, and they say, we're going to do something new at the company, most likely, it's not going to be a benefit or a net positive for you, the employee. That is the reality of being a human. It's usually a structural change for business, corporate owners, and profits. It doesn't benefit the employee. In Magic, whenever there's an announcement, you know, after 25 years of Magic the Gathering, we had the announcement of the first ever, not draft booster box, but the collector booster box. And then, actually, no, I'm sorry. It was a set box first, then collector. Were they about the same time? I think they were about the same time, maybe within a year. You know, we went this whole time, and then Wizards announced this new version of a... So we had collector booster boxes, and then everybody was very... In the public, most of the public doesn't understand that there's a lot of side effects to collector booster boxes. Collector boxes devalue the normal playable game pieces, which... I assumed, well, game piece army, people who think money is evil, I assumed you all would be happy with that. And then as time went on, they created the set box. So every time they've done this, and then Wizards made an announcement saying, well, there are too many versions of cards in boxes. Like they created this artificial fake problem, and they said, well, we're going to get rid of all of it, draft and set, and we're going to make the new play box. In reality, they did that, but all they did was raise the cost of every box of cards that, well, went to the public. Instead of initiating price increases, they just changed the item and did, as we like to call in the industry, a shadow price increase, or a kind of a pseudo price increase, kind of a shadier version of a price increase. And that's what they did. And it worked really, really well. And, you know, here I am in 2025 now, trying to get you guys to support Creepy Rudy, and I try to sell you guys $118 play boxes. And yeah, $118 play boxes is a long way off from the original $79 play booster or draft boxes from years ago. But then again, you know, inflation and natural progression of life and devaluing of the U.S. currency and dollar and money printing, I guess that's about right. So essentially, 9 years ago, I sold you guys boxes for $79.99, $80. I guess 9 years later, I sell you guys play boxes for $118. So I guess from 80 to 118 was about 40% price increase over 9 years. Yeah, I guess that's about right, huh? But it doesn't feel like, that's why I always told everybody in the past, like, even when products are bad. Do I have a Fallen Empire box here? I don't know where, I don't have a Fallen Empire box around me. I was hoping I would. I was going to say, you know, that's the funny thing about life, is that many times things don't need to go up in value for you to experience appreciation because of just the way we value our items. You know, I've always, in the world of real estate, I've always been a big proponent that, you know, housing isn't really going up in value. It's just that we value real estate in US dollars. And if we value something in a currency that dissolves in value it makes the underlying asset looks like it appreciates faster than it should. And I've always said that. And I've always felt that's been a really, really weird thing. Because I always felt like just, we experienced so much inflationary pressure through the COVID and the side effects, the money printing, all these things. And of course, every time I say that, it triggers some of you guys and everybody gets upset. Whatever. The point is, everything went up. No matter how you feel about it, no matter how much you love or hate me or anything, everything skyrocketed, and that's called inflation. Now, if you believe it was caused by different things, that's your opinion. That's fantastic. I'm pulling for you and your mom. But things went up a lot. And I still remember when they weren't. And so do most of you out there. So that leads me to the deeper thought of this video, now that I've laid you guys a nice foundation here. And that is looking at things like this new Final Fantasy set. People ask me, Rudy, $725 as of yesterday on TCG Player for a collector box of Final Fantasy before tax. So with most of you out there, with tax, it's almost $800 a box. And and people are calling it the most expensive collector box ever. Everything's the most this, the most that. Everybody's wound up about it. But I think about it and I'm going, what about 5 years ago when we had VIP Double Masters for $100 a pack? So wouldn't 12 packs of that be $1,200? But 12 packs of the new Final Fantasy is $800. Okay. Well, what about some of these Commander Masters and some of these other specialty things that only had 4 packs in a $300 collector box? So there's $75 a pack. Well, $75 a pack times 12 is about $800 a box. So essentially, the Final Fantasy collector box is the same price as, like, per pack, per thing, as a VIP Double Masters or a Commander Master. It feels different to everybody, but it's really not. The more you really do digging and historical research on this stuff, it may not make you all feel better, but everything that's happening is still within the realm of being normal. And I think that is the heart of the nastiest thing in this video. In the realm of being normal. Because Wizards has normalized $50 to $100 booster packs. I remember in 2020 making videos stating to you guys, if VIP and Double Masters was successful, and they were successful selling those $100 packs, it was going to change the future of Magic forever. And it was going to tell them that they had the ability to raise prices because they haven't run into resistance yet. Now, they did run into resistance and pushback, and they did go too far with Magic 30. It was the biggest rejection of a Magic product in 30 years of Magic the Gathering history. That is the number one most rejected, most unifying product of the public I've ever seen in my life. I don't think we ever experience a Magic 30 again. And honestly, I think people don't realize this, but I think the rebellion against Magic 30 and the $1,100 4-pack box of proxy cards, the fact the market banded together, players, collectors, evil investors, distributors, Game Piece Army, Rudy's, LGS, everybody banded together and said, no, that's too far. And I don't think people understand that is one of the biggest historical moments in Magic history, because if that did not unfold that way, I don't think you all realize how different the future would be. If Magic 30 had been successful, it would have, today's conversation with Final Fantasy would be different. I think the future of everything would have changed. If Wizards had sold 50,000 boxes of Magic 30 and made, I don't know what that comes out to, $50 million or $500 million, whatever the numbers are multiplying, I don't know what it is. If they had done that, it would have given them the green light to just completely railroad all of us and just obliterate the greed monster to another level. And that is something I still think, I know nobody thinks about Magic 30 anymore. But it's something that I think is something that we all need to not forget, you know? And I think right now, we've all, I think Magic is trying to get more collectors and investors. I feel like Magic, and at the corporate level, they're unhappy about the way their products are aging, the playability and utility of the singles, and the ability for them to I think there really is some real internal stuff going on. And I don't think it's bad. I just think they've realized that the secret layer business model has absorbed so much secondary market value. Then they had the list slot and set boxes, and then they destroyed more secondary market value for no reason. I think Magic and these people at the top have realized that they need new methods and ways to create value to sell premium products. And doing Fallout, Lord of the Rings, Doctor Who, Assassin's Creed, and now about to be Final Fantasy, then Spider-Man, and I'm hearing rumors of like an Avatar or something. By doing this kind of stuff, to me, it almost feels Pokemon-y. Like, it almost feels like it's just they want to make weird cards that are collectible with serial numbers, and really, I mean, that's the whole point. And some of you out there would like to think, and you would like to hope it wouldn't work so that we can go backwards the way things used to be, but not only is it working, but it's working very, very well for Wizards and Hasbro. And good reminder, you all, you are talking to someone who has almost around 20,000 shares of Hasbro. I am a very large shareholder in Hasbro, so it is in my best interest that Hasbro and Magic does well. And again, you're also talking about someone who probably, my spend rate with distribution is probably about 1.2% of Wizards of the Coast's entire cash flow and revenue comes from me. So remember that, everybody. So you are talking to someone who is biased here. So, because if I spend, I think my spend rate is like $2 to $3 million a month. So, but that includes Pokemon also, not just Magic. And I look at all this stuff going on, and I want people to understand that, these skyrocketing prices, in this market, it doesn't seem like the public understands the risk. But let me explain something to you all. Let me really, really explain something to everybody out there. And then I think I'm just going to end the video today. I don't know if I'm feeling this ramble today. The higher the prices, it makes the risk-reward situation very scary. Okay? Understand that if a store has to pay $300 a box for Final Fantasy collectors, and let's say MSRP is, what's MSRP? $650? And of course, people are losing their minds because Final Fantasy is selling for 10% over MSRP, right? Just the collector boxes. Of course, play boxes are still 20 to 30% below MSRP, but we want to pretend that doesn't exist because it doesn't fit the fucking narrative of uneducated Timmies on the internet who have their 5 roommates in one bathroom on Taco Tuesday. So when we look, but remember, folks, there will be a time when a very expensive Magic set comes out and it doesn't go to the moon. And these stores, remember, LGSs and stores do not keep hundreds of thousands in capital to handle these products. It's a pre-order game. Hurry up and fill the customers. Pay the distributor. Good, I made 10%. That's normally how it works. I'm telling you all, the closest thing we ever had was the Baldur's Gate situation. Collector boxes wholesale for Baldur's Gate were $225 to $230, maybe $235 with credit card fees. And those boxes dropped to about $200, $190, $180, and a year after release, they bottomed out at around $100 a box. Now imagine stores buying $300 collector boxes and everybody betting the farm. And one day, maybe the end of the year, maybe Spider-Man, maybe Edge of Eternities, maybe next year, maybe the year after, we get a Magic set And all these stores are on the hook, including me, for hundreds of thousands of dollars in product that they either can't sell or they have to sell and lose 10, 20, 30%. And these stores can't pay that. They can't pay the distributor because they can't sell the product. If they sell the product, it doesn't even bring in enough money to pay the bill. So what happens? And that's why I always say, everybody keeps bashing about the high prices. But as Wizards does this, it works as long as the market accepts it and the price goes up. You know, when you have a situation like Commander Masters or Baldur's Gate or these other sets in the past that came out and collapsed in the bear market, we never had one with Final Fantasy level prices. We never had a set come out in Magic with $300 collector boxes, store costs. And what happens if they're $400 or $500 and they immediately collapse to $300 to $200 a box? I remember with Commander Masters, I remember before like some patrons would close their account and they'd always send me that last hurrah, like FU message. And I remember this one years ago. And he says, Rudy, I just want you to know, I hope you get stuck with all your Commander Masters for trying to sell it for, I don't know, like you're only offering me a discount of like $10 off TCG Player. And if I buy a case, it's only $60 off. And I hope you get burned on Commander Masters. And I would only buy this product if Commander Masters goes to $99 a collector box. And at the time, just so you know, at the time, Commander Masters collectors was like, I don't know what store cost was, maybe $200 a box. And then they came out at maybe $220. And then they dropped to like $150. And I remember all that stuff going on. Then I remember thinking to myself, well, if you could get Commander Masters collector boxes for $99, like, why don't you just open all the packs and sell the singles? Like, that's the beauty thing that Magic has going for it, is that there are safety nets of the single cards and secondary market value that prevent it from falling to a certain point. But I also remember, every time we have these things, the emotions take over the market. People don't think straight. You know, businesses and employees panic. The public gets emotional. And then pricing gets more volatile as everybody starts freaking out. And I've been through this stuff so many times with so many releases. You know? And I got to tell you this one. I read this patron message the other night. And this patron sent me a link to an old Rudy sale post from 18 months ago, I think it was. And it was me doing my last hurrah. I tried to sell a Wilds Veldrain collector, an Ixalan collector, and a Lord of the Rings holiday. All three of them for like $600 a box. Or $629 shipped, I think it was. So I was trying to sell like Wilds collectors for like $179, Ixalan $179, and I think like Lord of the Rings holiday for like $259. And I clicked on that. I looked back at that post from a long time ago. And there were some comments on there saying, like, this is the last straw, Rudy. You know, you're Captain Scalper. I'm closing my account. You know, F off and farewell. And they closed their account. And I remember on that time trying to sell those 3 collector boxes. And, I look back at moments like that when I deal with moments like today with Pokemon and Magic. And it reminds me that when you deal with the public and you handle things, you have to be very cut and dry. And it's okay for people to dislike your business and dislike you, but it's a very difficult psychological game to navigate this stuff. Because no matter where the market cycle is, the same amount of problems exist. In a bull market like this, the problems are of a certain type, but when the markets get bad, the same amount of problems exist, but they're different types of problems. In this market, everyone's angry that you don't discount things enough, and they can't get the product. In a bad market, everybody just bashes on everything you do because you're selling hot shit to people, and they say they found somebody that's $1 cheaper. And it's very fascinating of that. It's almost like a living organism of just this flow of life. And you kind of learn about all this, and it's a reminder to you all that, it's normal. Like what we're going through, it's not always about the products. It's about the cycle of how we all feel. This really is an industry and this really is a market of emotion, because we all decide how good or bad the product that the company makes are. And the problem is, you can't really understand how accurate that is, because the public decides what's good and bad, and the public's wrong a lot. You know? I mean, the fact that the public, I will never let it down. The fact that the public said Lord of the Rings holiday boxes was the biggest hot trash garbage in modern Magic history, and it turned out to not be a good product, but it turned out to be the #1 best performing Magic box in modern, actually possibly history at this point. I mean, there is not even a close second place of a product that's like 2 years old that you could have bought for $250 and it went to $2,000. Like, that just doesn't happen. And the fact that the market not only got that wrong, but got it so wrong, to me, is why I believe that the public and the internet just has no credibility. Because, you can't listen to that stuff. And I always go back to that example. To this day, like Assassin's Creed collector boxes. I was like, bro, this is a super short printed set. There's not much to go around. And this thing should be $500 to $1,000. And the market thinks Assassin's Creed collectors is trash, and it tanked the price to like $180, $190, which was great. Allowed me to get some position in it. And now it's back to almost $300. But still, I'm like, it's very fascinating. And I just think that the products are good. And I don't think there's anything wrong with the pricing. And I think it's tough for people to understand that this is a luxury hobby. It's not about game pieces. And Wizards is going to continue to raise prices and make things crazy. And they're going to justify it by creating new forms of value and making new items of desire. And I'm assure you all, this whole serialized card era that we're in now has been incredibly successful. And they've done very, very good at it. I would have done things different, and obviously you would have too. But I can't disagree with the fact that what they've done has been successful. I think Final Fantasy should have had, a 1 of 1 series of different characters. I think Final Fantasy should have had like a 1 of 10. I think there should have been like Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, like 7, 8, 9, 10. Like each Final Fantasy Final Fantasy 7 should have had 7 serialized cards. The Final Fantasy 10 card should have had 10 serialized cards. Final Fantasy Original should have 1. There should be one. What did they do instead? They did just 77 golden chocobos. And yeah, that's going to be fucking rare and impossible to find. And they're going to be worth insane amounts of money if you're lucky enough to find one. That's what it is. That's just the reality of it. And that's it. I would have done things differently, but what they did, the markets reacted, the boxes are expensive, and if you don't think Final Fantasy collector boxes are going to be over $1,000 and head higher, then you're either very emotional and jaded, or you're just angry, because the market's going to market. And from what I see going on, I mean, this is crazy, because everybody wants it. People who don't like Magic still want Final Fantasy. And I don't care what anyone says. If I'm wrong, then I guess maybe all the data on the internet's wrong. Maybe all the orders are fake. But, that's where we're at, everybody. And, I still think we're in for a lot of turbulence in the future. And I still have a lot of fear of when the market turns. More so for Magic than Pokemon. Because when Magic markets turn, it's a fucking bloodbath, man. Like, a bad Pokemon market's one thing, because Pokemon boxes aren't as expensive. Pokemon's not making $300 Pokemon collector boxes. Thank God they're not doing that. But, when Magic turns, it's fucking doomsday out there, man. I'm sorry, but, I have so many dark nights and stories of 2022 and 2023. And I know I've done some videos on it, and you guys have asked for more story time stuff, but, man, there's just some bad stuff, man. There's just some bad stuff. Has anyone even noticed that I haven't even been publishing, collection buying videos and different things in the last, 60 days? I can't believe no one's even commented or noticed. it just shows nobody gives a shit about like vintage Magic cards. Like I've got like 8 vintage Magic collections that are purchased that are lined up with like a story from each person. I haven't filmed or even showed any of it. Like, I don't feel like anybody even cares to look at old cards anymore. So, I don't know. I think I'm done rambling today. No real purpose. I'll try to get this video out on Sunday. So which means if you watch this on Sunday, we should have the Pokemon Destined Rivals ETBs, Elite Trainer Box sale coming up for patrons. And then next week, I think we might have, do we have a new Weiss release or a new One Piece sale for patrons? And then we're going to have then we got Flesh and Blood coming with High Seas, some spoiler videos and more conversations with High Seas. And then we got the Final Fantasy sale. I am going to be running a sale for Final Fantasy play boxes, collector boxes, bundles, I think gift bundles, I think Commander decks, and Commander Collector. So I may be having a Final Fantasy sale for 6 days in a row. It's a lot, folks. And like I said, just so you all know, like I don't, at this point in my life, I don't really enjoy, like I've been dreading the Final Fantasy sales, just like I've been dreading the Destined Rivals sales. I don't enjoy it. I didn't, like when Dragon's Tarkir came out, Tarkir Dragonstorm came out, like I really enjoyed those sales. But when we get these markets like this where everybody's so emotional, angry, aggressive, and, you know, it's either people, you don't have enough, the price discount isn't big enough, what am I doing here? You get people who just lose sight that, they lose sight of everything. They lose sight of the long-term value of a lot of different businesses. And I really don't enjoy running sales to patrons on markets like this because it's stressful to deal with a lot of people. Because it's always, there's just so much emotion in the moment. And it's very difficult to communicate with people who are just so emotionally charged. You know, I really enjoy when we have like good markets, but not panic frenzy markets. Like back when I was selling like Temporal Forces and Pokemon, or Twilight Masquerade, or Paradox Rift, or Mr. P, or, you know, I don't know, Obsidian Charizard. You know, I'd run a patron sale. It'd stay in stock for 1, 2, 3 hours. Sometimes I would just end the sale after the next day. And, you know, and everybody gets their stuff, and, you know, other people complain because, you know, I don't want to buy it, it's hot trash. And, you know, everything goes on. It's nice. It's enjoyable and relaxing. It's a good experience for everybody, you know. But when we get into these things where it's like this, everybody's just so tense. I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy it like I used to. You know, like I said, there's been times, like I've considered it's just saying like, fuck it, and just not even running like a Final Fantasy collector box sale at all. Just to just not deal with the anger. Because, you know, it's either going to be, what's Final Fantasy collector? $750 to $800? What, take off $100 a box? I mean, then it blows out and it sells out and everybody's angry, then everybody else misses it. Or what, only take off $50 a box and then everyone's angry because the discount's not big enough and they get it. You have to determine the path of least amount of Chuck Norris punches. That's kind of how I view this stuff. There's no right or wrong thing to do. Right now, everything is about taking paths and choosing the decision that has the least amount of what you feel collateral damage. And that would be my advice to all stores out there. You're not going to win at this situation because there's not enough product. The product's expensive. Everybody wants it. Everybody wants it cheap. So you have all this tug of war, and there's no way for everybody to win. It's just how it is. So, but I really do have a lot of concern when we get that next Magic set and it tanks. And the market's so strong, all these undercapitalized stores are requesting infinite amounts of Magic, infinite amounts of Pokemon. And what happens when hundreds of stores get filled for 1,000 boxes and the boxes tank and they can't pay for them or something goes wrong? Like, that's the stuff that gives me the chills, because I know one day that will come and it's going to get it's going to get scary. Because the problem is there's so many people today with rip and shippers and LGSs and little businesses, or I guess the term on the internet right now is there's so many little Rudys out there. Everybody wants to be the next Rudy. It's kind of a meme I've been hearing going around. And because of that, a lot of people are leveraging and taking a lot of risk between SBA business loans, home equity lines of credit, HELOCs on their house, borrowing on credit cards. All these different things are happening. But hundreds and hundreds of businesses, if not thousands of businesses right now, have never been through a downturn. And they don't know what it's like. If you're leveraged and this market goes down, you're not going to lose money. You're going to go to zero. You're going to get nuked. And I've been through so many market collapses. I understand that. And I'm at a point now, I have no leverage or nothing's borrowed or anything. That's why if something doesn't work out, I just sit on the product and move on to the next thing. But that's a very special privilege that I have, that I've built from the last 20 years of just grinding and working, insane amounts of time and taking a lot of risk, which, it's a very privileged position to be in. That's not really how most businesses are. So, I think I'm done talking. I hope you guys have a beautiful day. I hope you guys enjoyed this rambling session for me. That's all I got. You guys want to be a patron? You can. You want to just watch the videos? I appreciate the views. Just friendly reminder for those of you all who haven't been here or you're new to this channel. I am not Amazon. I am not Netflix. So remember that. Everybody gets one chance of being a Rudy patron. If you close your account, you're banned and locked out for life. I do not allow people to open and close their account multiple times or time releases. That rumor on the internet is true. Just want to remind you all. So that rumor of people saying Rudy locks out and bans anyone who closes their account, that is true. That is not a internet rumor. I actually do that. My system is in place. At the end of every 24 hours, it runs a scan. I get a list of the names, and they all get locked out. And it's been that way for 5 years, and it is one of the best decisions I've ever made with my business. If you don't understand why, I can tell you're new here. And one day, you'll understand. Hope you'll have a beautiful day out there. It's a beautiful world. There's a lot of opportunity. Just make sure you're looking in the right place, and make sure you got good people around you. All right, penis.